We're back with my man, Tobias Sherman, CEO and founder of Foundry 4, man. Let's dig into it and talk new sports. I'm not wasting any time today.
Yeah, no, look, I think I was quite candid in our last interview and was looking forward to getting some things announced. Recently got a lot of that out. And, I think the industry is ripe for disruption right now. And, nobody's trying to change sort of the name of the culture or any of that. It's more about building sustainability ground up and creating an ecosystem that actually works for everybody alongside the ecosystem that is here today, and sort of it's all a test and learn for the entire industry right now. Anybody that says they've got it all figured out is kind of lying. So I think that what a wonderful opportunity to innovate and create new products that serve the fans. I think that's the most important takeaway. I wouldn't get a lot of people recently with the whole new sports sort of manifesto I put out get too caught up on the title. But if you look at the people that have actually created things ground up, Sundance or Hector from Optic, right? He was able to achieve a lot that so many weren't able to do. A lot of wins that a lot of people didn't manifest with their own organizations, from a brand perspective, from a fan perspective, from a growth perspective, out of a different sort of genre of the space. So having him support was great. I think that people within the space that have built things and have built leagues and have built products, we all understand that the terminology that we currently use is a roadblock, and we have to build bridges to not just to the brands, but also to the media and to the sports teams. Now that we're all in this together, I just felt it was important to redefine where we should head, because I don't really believe that all AAA publishers or even independent publishers should be the only pathway to a sustained ecosystem. We obviously get a lot further, a lot faster if we all row together, and everybody can make a lot more money that way, in my opinion.
Absolutely, man. I completely understand. There's no doubt that you're a mover and shaker in the industry. With your announcement and with the launch, what were you most surprised by? I mean, I feel like you anticipated a little, backlash, but what really shocked you, if anything?
So yeah, no, I anticipated getting eviscerated as usual, right? Because it's like, as soon as I get, so the agency, it'll never work in the early days. And it was the same people, by the way, the exact same people. If you look through sort of the Twitter feed, and that anybody that's been through, that's been in the industry long enough to, when I pitched the idea for the agency before I actually did it, it's those exact same people today that are like sort of the venom and the negativity, and that's fine. That's A-okay, right? Because it's great, because people say, well, do you use that for motivation? I'm like, no, not really. I mean, it's not so much motivation. It's great because it has to keep you on your toes, and you have to deliver so you can prove those people wrong. So I think that, and that's a good thing, right? Because it's very important. We live in a world where announcements come out, and then a lot of times they're never followed up on, and nobody actually delivers. I love having to thrive on delivering, and the company's reputation relies on that. And thank God we've got a great partner with MGM. We've got a great team behind it internally. So I think the biggest surprise, though, was I did anticipate it to get eviscerated, and not so much by the community. Notice I labeled the new sports manifesto was to the industry, and that's important. And I say in the first paragraph, like the old guard is so resistant to change. Yet that's exactly what both need. The space needs the change, and the traditional sports space needs the change in a new definition, in my opinion. So the biggest surprise came when the CEO of Hyperice, Jim, he came here to Vegas, and we sat down for a meeting, and it was the day after I announced, actually right before I dropped the manifesto or doctrine, whatever you want to call it. I think that word manifesto has such a negative connotation, but before I put the piece out, we sat down. Yeah, we sat down, and he was like, "I get it." And you're talking about a guy that runs a company that is about recovery for athletes in terms of making sure that they're healthy and they're getting the right type of assistance and support through their bodies, which are their main function of success. And it's the same right now in competitive gaming, where your body is your main function of success, but nobody's really thinking about it in terms of recovery and how they can stay healthy and those. So for him, it was a passion point. And I warned him. I said, well, you need to be brave, because really it's this, anything you put out initially gets destroyed by the internet because it's the internet. My biggest surprise was the acceptance. I couldn't believe there was only like sort of a few naysayers, and I don't think their arguments really held up. And by the way, I'm all about having the debate, but let's have a debate on the topics, right? Easing the tension, building new products with media, easing the tension between parents and kids, creating games that sustain that. Sustainability in general, sponsors. Let's not keep these problems in a closet somewhere. Let's discuss them and debate them. Let's not debate the name change. That's the least important of it all. So the biggest surprise was having a CEO come out and say, I'm in favor of this. And when I say you have to be brave, he then pulls out a press release and hands it to me, and he says, I'm ready to go. And I'm committed. And I want to make sure that these competitive athletes get the support they need. So whether it's traditional sports or new sports, Hyperice is committed to going ahead and figuring out what are the needs today and what are going to be the needs tomorrow. And before I get too long-winded, which I already have, I'd say, so the surprise was twofold in summary. One, that I got so much support. More important to me, I don't care if it didn't get any support, but the people that supported it because they've built things, that's what I cared about. And number two, the fact that a brand came to me and said, I want to be part of this. And I was followed by 4 more phone calls from traditional sports brands wanting to learn more. That I couldn't ask for more, right? So I think that the validation of the brand coming in certainly was a relief because it was so short of a gap between release and then we have a brand in, which is great because it sort of proves out what we've been saying. I shouldn't have been so cynical with the industry because they really stepped up with a lot of support, a lot of phone calls. That's great. And we got people talking. So
you referenced proving it. What does proving it look like from Tobias Sherman? When can you look at it and say, okay, look what we've accomplished with the new movement and change?
I mean, the whole point is that it evolves well past my lifetime. That's what we're trying to build. And the whole point is we're not trying to be empire builders at Foundry. We're trying to build an ecosystem that works for everybody. That's the point. That's why, or I would have trademarked the name and gone the route of Apple and said, yeah, you know what? There's tablets out there. We're the iPad, which also got, a lot of bad initially anyway, right? It's like, well, the tablets existed for 10 years. Why did anybody care? Why are they going to care because you named it an iPad and you're going to charge more for it? Until they gave them a purpose. So I think for us, it's about let's set a direction and a purpose, but let's share it with everybody. And so my whole take is like, listen, this is the direction I'm taking my company. If you want to come with me and you can see the results as we go, I'm happy to share our experience with you. If it's just me that does it and that's my definition and that's the way I view it and that's how we're going to create products, great. So I think the definition of success for me is the fact that we build products that sustain and help the entire ecosystem. A win is if we're a year from now we have, apart from Hyperice, 4 more brands and sports teams are starting to get it and deploy, whether it's with us or anybody else, that's success. But I also don't want to think of it in terms of just, what's this immediate metric, or else what's the point? We have to continually challenge each other. We have to continually evolve and avoid that stagnation because the fans demand it, because the millennials and Gen Zers demand it, and that's what they expect at this point. So success for me is sustainability, I guess, and continuing to disrupt.
Who is top of mind for you when you're working in this space?
Fans and the athletes, for sure, 100%. I'm not trying to sell video games.
Who's qualified to enter into the debate with you, in your opinion?
That's a great question. I would say anybody. Look, I'll debate anybody on it. Anybody is qualified to have a conversation. One thing I don't like about politicians is a lot of times you'll see in their local markets, they will choose not to debate the candidate because they don't feel like, sometimes they won't even show up for a debate. It doesn't happen on the national level as much, but I've noticed it on local levels a lot where it's like, I know I'm going to win my district because I've got the votes. I'm not going to bother going. That's horrible. Like, you need to have a free exchange of ideas. This year has been plagued with, some AAA publishers buying moderators off of panels, buying entire panels. What's that about? Like, we should have a free exchange of ideas. So I think anybody's qualified to have the debate. Having said that, though, if you're going to come at me and try to relate, I would appreciate if you haven't built something before from scratch, if you haven't put yourself out there on the line time and time again, and you want to hide behind sort of other people's opinions or whatever, you can do that. All I'm saying is look through my lens, look through my point of view of, it takes a lot of risk to go out there and do something like this and put yourself out there, whether it was the agency, whether it was ELEAGUE, whether it's now our platform and now the new sports. that's the connective tissue. So at least appreciate the effort going in. And like I said, anybody's qualified, but it's just I would sort of appreciate a level of professionalism that says, you know, we don't need to go to the name calling. We don't need to go to the venom or any of that stuff. That's esports. That's that current esports industry. It's not the fans. You know, that's the sort of the old guard that wants to hang on to that. That's fine. You can have that. You know, you don't see that stuff in that regard in traditional sports. And then that's what I'm saying. We need to depart from that. And I think that's a lot of what the phone calls had was like in support of, you know, getting away from that type that tarnishes sort of all the special things that we've all built together. So anyone's qualified to have the debate, but if you're going to have it, at least study up on the issues and the experiences that I think we're all, you know, sort of struggling with as creators.
Well, let me pass you this mic and let you make one final message to the viewers and everybody there that's been paying attention to your announcement, and kind of the supporters and naysayers, and let you kind of get a last little message for them.
Wait, thanks for putting me on the spot. So I guess what I would say is, you know, keep us honest. We're all about community feedback. We want to hear from you. So whether that's the game release, we want to put it out early and ugly, knowing that, again, we're going to, you know, probably get eviscerated on that, which is A-okay, because you guys are going to lead the way. We're going to listen, and we're going to implement what you want to see. In terms of the fans, you know, spectator experiences, you know, what does that look like? We're open to all feedback. So we want to make sure that we're creating products that you guys love and cherish. And, you know, we're going to continue to bring in non-endemics to this space, and that's for everybody, not just us. So, you know, thanks for staying tuned, and you know, we look forward to your feedback.